Remember, I'm Dan Kuttner. I've done this show, The Free Mind, on a taped basis several times, about 3 or 4 shows, and decided to go live. Here come the phones. Come on in, Jesus. You can be on TV.
You, not me.
Now we get to have our phones. Magic console. I'll go ahead and put the phone number back up.
Put some edge.
What's that?
Put some edge in it.
Yeah. Okay, I don't see any lines lighted yet, but we'll just wait and see who calls, if he plugged it in right. What's the purpose of this show? Well, we have quite a few talk shows on these days that get into the political area, and or just the raucous, Howard Stern, for instance, and some others on this channel, that I'm just fed up with that. I feel like there are other people that feel the same way. And what I thought I would do is bring a show to the air that allowed people to air their philosophical views and to share some philosophies and see what we can do to make our life the best it can be, to filter out all the garbage that we get on TV and through the newspapers and just word of mouth, where people are trying to get us to behave in a certain way or give up our tax money or let other people use stuff that we think belongs to us, or probably the biggest thing I've seen on TV is where people try to scare us into doing things. That's my number one suspicion when I see an ad or a news item that the purpose of which is to scare us. I believe that is just trying to get us to behave in a habitual manner to, oh no, I'm afraid of crime, or I'm afraid of the feds, or whatever the particular fear is. I think the best way to deal with life is on an intellectual level. Well, I have a couple of calls in here. Let's see how I am at taking them. We'll go with line 1. Line 1, you're on the air. Can you hear me? Are you there? Bear with me a little bit here. I'm not getting the phones. Let me try turning that up a little bit. If you're there, say something. Now I'm getting some feedback. I might have to go get some help on this, because I'm not hearing you if you're there. Can you hear me? You're supposed to hear me over the TV, and I'm supposed to hear you. I've got the volume up. All the buttons look right. Let's try this one. Are you there? Now I'm getting something. Somebody hung up. Okay, we'll try the next one, see how we go. Line 2, you're on the air.
Hello?
I hear you blowing, yes.
Hey, what's up?
Hi, how are you?
Pretty good, man. I was just tuning in. I wanted to say, congratulations for getting your own show and everything. It's a great thing for this, for this community and all that. It's cool to have people like you to kind of open up the lines and let people talk about their own philosophies and everything. Just wanted to say thanks.
Well, you're welcome. You're welcome. What is your philosophy? How would you describe it?
Well, everything is kind of. I'm pretty based in Zen. I really am. I'm a very religious person, but I look at things kind of objectively from a stature of, philosophies are pretty much all equal. Everything that you do basically is going to turn out the same for everybody. Basically, the human experience is universal, and no matter what religion you are, you're going to experience it equally. So, I just, this kind of show right here is the perfect thing to get all these philosophies out in the open. So, I just wanted to, congratulate you.
Oh, thank you. Can you the way it's supposed to be?
Anyway, I just wanted to pose a question to you. What do you think is the single most, the nicest thing you can do for a person?
Well, probably save their life.
Really?
That's what I would think.
Yeah. See, I don't know. I had it posed to me by a friend of mine who told me that the nicest thing you can do for a person is to kill them.
Oops. Well, I hung up on you, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. You can go ahead and call back. I had some other calls on hold here, and they went away. The nicest thing you can do to a person is kill them. That's an interesting philosophy. I think that's something maybe Charlie Manson might have believed. Unfortunately, I think the test of a philosophy, or one of the tests of a philosophy, is its basis in the real world. What do you reap when you practice your philosophy? And I think if you have that philosophy, you're going to end up in the at least on trial, like O.J. Simpson is, whether he's guilty or not. You'll end up in a chair like that, or you'll have people hounding you, or you might try to kill someone and they'll kill you first. And if you think that's a favor, maybe they're doing you the favor. In fact, if that's really your philosophy, perhaps suicide is the best thing you can do for yourself. Well, I've got 2 more calls here. Let me try airing this one. Okay, you're on the air with the Free Mind.
Hello?
Yes.
Oh, it's me again.
Okay.
You just cut me off.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm still getting used to these buttons.
Oh, that's all right.
And the other thing is I'm kind of ready with them, because a lot of people start off, if you watch these shows very much, you see people start off pretty intelligent, and all of a sudden they come up with something totally bonkers and start swearing or going doodle-loo-loo or some weird thing.
Well, actually,
I was afraid you were going to start.
I kind of wanted to explain myself here.
Okay, sure, go ahead.
Well, basically, look at it holistically. If you kill someone, you are giving up your own right to eternal paradise, you know? And thereby you're also giving that person their own eternal paradise, if you look at it as in terms of heaven and hell.
Well, then why not just commit suicide?
Because that wouldn't be good for me or anyone else. I'm just looking at it in terms of me and someone else.
Did you hear what I was saying while you were off?
Yes, I did.
Okay, how do you answer that as far as philosophy's application to the real world? In the real world, if you practice that philosophy, you're going to get caught by other people and either shot or put on trial and put in jail. Or how does that make your philosophy any good?
Well, right. That's because we're focusing on the human condition, whereas this philosophy that I was just talking about is completely in terms of afterlife. Whereas a lot of philosophy and a lot of the stuff that I believe is based in this life.
Okay, let me stop you right there. How do you know there's an afterlife?
I'm sorry?
How do you know there's an afterlife? You're doing things in the real world based on a belief that I want to hear if you've proven that belief or not.
Well, basically the idea of an afterlife or some kind of afterlife is prevalent in everything that I perceive, in that there is an absolute balance between good and evil. And that there is...
See, but how do you know any of that? Now you're getting a little bit into the area of faith. Let me preface this by my philosophy, and since I'm running the show, it's going to be used as a kind of gauge of others' philosophies who call in.
Yeah.
And my philosophy, basically, I think you'd define it as a logical positivist, is the closest thing I've seen describing anything close to it. And what that means is, if you cannot construct a test of any aspect of your philosophy, let's say we're concentrating on the afterlife right now. If you can't construct a test that the answer to which will prove or disprove your thesis, then the question's meaningless. So unless, I want to ask you that, can you construct a test, the answer to which will prove or disprove the existence of an afterlife? In this world?
I don't know. I don't know in this world, because,
Well, then the question's meaningless. You've just gotten into the area of faith, which it almost isn't worth discussing, because it's just something you believe, and it isn't based on anything real. It's just something you feel, and that's fine. But for purpose of the show, to be able to share something with somebody else, I think you have to be able to demonstrate it.
Mm-hmm, to have some sort of frame of reference.
Right.
Well, the reason I brought up afterlife, and mainly because that is the prevalent issue in every dominant world religion.
Right, and we can stop right there, because what's religion based on?
Faith.
Right. And I want to focus more on the intellectual and logical aspect of life, because that's all we know.
Yeah, that's true. Because, blind faith is what most religions ask you to accept.
Right.
To do that, completely blindly without...
I can't think of an exception. All religions that I know about start with that.
I'm sorry?
I said all religions that I know about start with faith.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying faith is bad, but I'm saying it's unprovable, and in fact allows you to do things like vote for somebody, again going to the real life, vote for somebody you don't even know what they really stand for, just based on some PR, which is often totally fiction.
That's right.
For example, the most recent example, looking at the news again, which is something we're all supposed to have faith in, the latest thing is Hillary Rodham Clinton, who is now Mrs. Clinton again. They're calling her a different name. She's has another hairstyle. It's like a fourth hairstyle, fourth image change. And now she represents all women, and she's going to China. supposedly on a mission of representing women. Well, this has been interesting. Let me take another caller here on line 2 who's been waiting patiently. I appreciate your call, and if you want to call back in a little while, if I'm slow, that's fine. But it looks like we've got the lines lined up. Thank you for calling. Appreciate your call. Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Okay, line 2, you're on with the Free Mind.
Hi.
Hi.
What are y'all talking about?
Well, this is a new show, and what it is aimed at is taking a personal philosophy and applying it to life.
Taking a philosophy and applying it to life?
Right. In other words, I think there's very little attention. Is there somebody in the back there?
Yes, he won't let me talk.
Like women are
Let me let him talk to you.
Is he getting jealous of your airtime?
No. So
Okay.
what I'm saying is a woman is equal to a man, right? I mean,
Okay, let's stop right there. What are you basing that on?
well, I'm just basing it on society now.
Well, that's not a philosophy. You're just reading that somewhere.
Well, no, I'm not. It's my philosophy. I believe a woman walks a step behind a man.
Well, see, I want to go a step deeper than that. That's maybe an expression of your philosophy. But basically,
okay, give me something to go deep into.
Okay, I'll give you an example.
Okay.
As what we were talking about is, to me, the question of whether there's an afterlife or not is meaningless because we can't provide a test. We can't construct a test. At least I haven't heard one yet. The answer to which will answer the question, and therefore, I like dealing more in the here and now and what we can deal with, like whether there's I'll even say by my philosophy, whether there's a hurricane in the Atlantic is meaningless to me.
Well, it's irrelevant, is what it is.
Correct. It has no meaning and no relevance to my life because it may rain a little bit here tonight.
It doesn't affect you. It doesn't affect
Right,
you
and it
personally.
may cause something. For instance, it may cause some rain here tonight, but the rain here tonight is what I'm dealing with, not the weather in the Atlantic Ocean. Now, if I'm taking a trip along that route, then maybe it'll be interesting to me. But the reason I'm talking about this philosophy is, to me, I think too much of what's going on in the world, what our tax money is spent on, what our energy is spent on, what our thoughts are spent on, are on things that absolutely have nothing to do with us, and they're just used as a subterfuge to get into our wallets, for instance. I think our city council does that a lot, for instance.
Okay, I can agree with that.
So I want to kind of focus on that kind of issue. Whether women, we can talk about equality if you want to, but I want to.
My sister was the one that called, and
Okay.
I'm a chauvinist pig, and I just wanted to express my feeling, but I didn't realize that you were on this in-depth thing about afterlife and what affects you. Let me let you talk to her real quick, and I sure do appreciate you talking to me, though.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
What's your first name?
My name is Mike.
Mike. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hi,
this
are you
this
there?
is the sister. What's your first name?
Dana.
Dana. I'm Dan.
Dan, very nice.
Welcome to the
meet
Free
you.
Mind. Do you think
You right here.
now? No talking in the background. now.
Right? He's horrible. As far as afterlife, you guys were just talking about fate and stuff, and that is what it's all about. You can't. You have to live your life for yourself and your beliefs and what you do, and what everybody else says. That's their deal.
Right. We're just sharing here. I'm not telling you everybody's wrong.
Right. No, but I agree with you.
In fact, I try not to use words like right and wrong. I'd rather use a word like effective or positive, something that has an effect on your life. So, we can talk about male-female equality. I'm not poo-pooing that subject, but I want to get into why someone feels that way, because if you get into the why, sometimes you can apply that to other life questions.
Right.
Whereas a faith, you have to go ask somebody, because a faith is based on something very nebulous, and you have to go to a book or you have to go to somebody else. You can't just take, a small set of ethical principles, for instance. I'll give you an example. We talk about the Republicans and the Democrats a lot in the news or just in personal conversations, and yet so far no one has been able to give me a definition of what the party stands for. Because basically it stands for getting people in office and getting some of what's yours and giving it to somebody else and keeping a little. That's probably the best definition, and it applies to both of those parties. There is a political party called the Libertarian Party that stands for non-violence, non-initiation of violence, and in other words, not stealing, not murdering, and including the government with those rules. So on a personal level, I think we should have rules like that too, that we can just say, oh, well, that's against my ethical code, I'm not going to do that.
Well, so I mean, you know, I understand what you're saying, and you're obviously very intelligent and well versed, and you
Thank you.
you study and everything. But what is the point? I guess I'm missing that. I don't understand.
In fact, you said study. Let me show you the level of study that I do. Can you see this book all right?
Yeah, philosophy made simple.
Made simple. Okay. That's the level of person I am. I try to do things in the way that the least amount of energy brings the greatest reward. And it's true in my daily life. I mean, as much as I try that I can be conscious of this kind of thing. Anyway, I'm kind of hogging the conversation. What did you want to talk about?
No, that's okay. Really, I just was absolutely just curious about, you know, what I heard you on the phone earlier, and kind of just caught half of what you were talking about, and I just wanted to call and find out what this is all about. So really, that's my deal. I mean, I don't really have much more to say about it, to be honest with you.
Okay, I think the best way that I would define this show is, if you take Howard Stern, that I consider a completely mindless show, where he gets into emotional scraps with people, and because he's intelligent and he's been in show business a long time, he can turn them into jelly. I want to be the opposite of that and try to bring out the best of what people think, so we can all listen to it and share it and maybe enlarge everyone's life that's listening.
Dan, I tell you what, I think it's a great idea, and
Thank you.
In the future, if I collect my thoughts, I'll have to call you back on some issues.
Very good.
Okay.
Feel free. I'm going to pick up another line now. Thank you for calling.
Bye.
Okay, this is starting to get fun here. Okay, line 3, you're on the air with the Free Mind. What's your first name? Anybody there? I can't hear you. You have to listen through your TV.
Yes, please.
Are you there?
Okay, what? Make spell your phone call?
I hear someone talking, but I don't hear you.
Okay.
Speak up a little. I hear you're there. Oh, they went away. Okay, line 1 coming up here. I think you hear a beep, because I've called in. I think you'll hear a beep when it's you. Line 1, you're on the air with the Free Mind. What's your first name?
My name's PJ.
BJ, okay. Hi,
Yeah.
I'm Dan.
How's it going?
Fine. Have you been listening?
Oh yeah, I've been listening for a while now.
Good, okay. Well, I'm glad you called in.
Are we talking about philosophy tonight?
Yes, that's the purpose of the show, is to share
Oh, it is?
personal philosophies and applying them to life.
Oh yeah, I've heard once before that like everything that we see in life and everything that's real is really only perception in a way, and that it doesn't really exist, but accepted in our mind and what we perceive it as.
Okay.
But I was just wondering, like in terms of perception, how big is your wiener?
Ha! The fingers were fast. If you want to know, we'll have to be in another forum, and this is not for talking about sexual issues and repressed people. Unless, I guess, if that's your philosophy that runs your life, maybe we can talk a little bit. But you guys have to understand the rules. The reality is we've got Big Brother watching, and if someone says some magic words that people consider dirty, then someone can get in trouble. So that's, to me, a very mystical, primitive view of life, that certain words have a magical power that can hurt people. There again, using my philosophy, I've never seen anyone who's been harmed by hearing a certain word. So, but we live in a reality where someone can do something bad to me, take me off the air, for instance, if you say what's considered a nasty word, and you all know what those words are. So when I hear those, I try to cut you off, and it's nothing personal. It's just, you can say those words to yourself. Okay, enough of that. Let me try line 2 here. They've been waiting for a while. No, I think line 2, I think. Let me try that. Okay, line 2, you're on the air with the Free Mind. What's your first name?
John.
John?
Yeah.
Hi.
About the people that call in and get foul with you and things like that, they're showing their IQ.
Or lack.
Or lack
They
of IQ.
probably, in fact, I'll go so far as to say they probably have a backwards baseball cap on. To me, that's a sign you've lost 50 IQ points in my eyes if you wear a backwards baseball cap.
Well, this
Unless
might be
you're
an interesting show tonight. I like your topic, philosophy. I wanted to ask you if you are a subscriber to absolute truth or half-truth, as I call it.
I take it that's a magazine. I don't subscribe to it now.
Well, it's a
First of all, I believe that's well, that's a tough one. If I was about to say I don't believe in absolute truth, but if I said that, that would be an absolute truth. So it's hard to say. I haven't found an absolute truth. Let's put it that way.
As much as I try to be a believer in absolute truth, I find that it's situational. From situation to situation, there's many situations that can't be dealt with the same every time, such as wars. I mean, there can't be an absolute right or wrong.
Well, I'll say in terms of war, look at who we were enemies with for about the last 50 years, and suddenly they're our pals and we're training them and throwing more money at them. Of course, we're throwing money at them while they were our enemies. But that goes back to my philosophy. The whole question of what's going on in the Soviet Union is completely irrelevant to me unless I know someone there, and then I'll go over and try to help them maybe or send them money. But for a government to take masses of money from the people who are already having problems in this country and ship it over by the carload over there or anywhere, to me is mindless.
Right. As long as there's one homeless person and one hungry family, we shouldn't be spending all that money.
Right.
Jump around a little bit. How do you
Okay.
feel about Hillary going over there and speaking after Tiananmen Square and everything like that, and the release of Mr. Wu?
To me, it's the closest thing I can say is it's a waste of my tax money on a propagandistic purpose. That's about all I can say. I don't think anything she says, and not to single her out, I don't think anything she says means any more or less than what anybody else has to say.
Clinton's acted more and more like a Republican. Well, I'm going to get off and let the next person
Okay.
win. Thanks.
Thank you for your intelligence, and thank you for sharing that with us. I'll go for line 3 here. Hello, you're on the air with the Free Mind. What's your first name, please?
Am I on the air?
It's you.
Oh, right. My name is Thomas.
Thomas.
Yes.
Thank you for calling.
No problem. What's your name?
Tell me, can you hear all right?
I think I can hear okay because I've got my TV at a pretty decent volume. So I don't have a problem.
Okay, good.
What's your name?
My name's Dan.
Dan. Okay. I happen to be a Republican. Where my
Okay, let's stop right there. What does that mean?
Huh?
What does that mean about you? What am I supposed to think when you say you're a Republican?
Well, I was only saying that just to kind of.
Well, I want to get to the purpose of this show is to get beneath the veneer of things, such as the statement, I'm a Republican, and see what it actually means. So tell us, the viewing audience, what it means to you, or what I'm supposed to think is a better word, because you told me you're a Republican. I'm supposed to think something about you.
Okay, well, oftentimes, too, I wear my baseball cap backwards, but that's beside the point.
So you could gain 50 IQ points just by turning it the right way. Now, there's an exception, by the way, there's an exception to that. If, let's say you're a catcher on a baseball team, they have to turn it around. Welders, there can be rational reasons for turning it around other than fashion.
With me, it's just fashion.
Okay.
Well, I'm a Republican because I believe in this country being the greatest country in the world, the United States, as a constitutional Republican form of government. I do agree with some of the libertarian platforms, like when it comes to the gun issue, when it comes to taxes, when it comes to shipping our money overseas to, like, with the bailout of Mexico and to the Soviet Union or to China or wherever, with, like you call, propagandistic, events going on over, like, in China. I oppose that wholeheartedly because so long as, like you were saying, or like the other caller said, that so long as there's one family here or one person that requires assistance, then we should do everything in our power here to do that. But back to why I am a Republican is going on from the form of government we have, which is unique from all the other.
Well, just for the record, you still haven't answered my question. That was, what am I supposed to think about you when you tell me you're a Republican?
Well, I think probably because of the title of your show, you think of whatever you want. Hopefully you wouldn't put me in there with the Oliver North and the
No. I'm not saying what I probably would do. You told me you were a Republican for the purpose of bringing an image into my mind.
Uh-huh.
I'm assuming. That's an assumption.
Well, no, I just wanted to identify myself since I know that your show is predominantly tilted towards the libertarian platform. More or less, I guess.
Actually, more towards anarchy. I believe, I'm going to go out on a limb here, I think government is a parasite.
Well, how can how can you
There's
say that?
something for
How
people
would-
to swallow.
How would you have any sort of standard set in this country when it comes to certain issues or any type of? I mean, how can you advance the argument of anarchy? I mean, who would be in control? How would you have any sort of standard or any type of uniformity? I mean,
To me, it's a goal to strive for. It's not something you would just turn on tomorrow. If you turned it on tomorrow, I don't think people would have the philosophic or mental training to live in an anarchy. But I believe really anarchy is really autarky. If you understand auto, I believe it's Greek for self.
It's humanism.
It means self-rule rather than having a king of some kind, which in effect really our Congress. We've got the gang of 545, president, vice president. Well, maybe make it 546, including Hillary in there. To the extent that who elected her to go to China and represent anybody, but
That's true. I agree with you there.
you know, in any case, I end up picking on her, and I don't mean to. It's just
No, don't apologize.
well, she throws herself into the public eye, so I guess I have the same right to pick on her as you have to pick on me to the extent I've done this.
No, I've just called here to have a healthy discussion.
Yeah. Let me also say I've got two other people on hold. Please hang on because I relish every caller here. The time is zipping by, but this has been a great show. I've only had one person go bonkers on me, and that's a pretty good record so far, and I'm not encouraging anybody else to do it. But
Okay.
you know what I mean? If you watch, you're Thomas, is that your name?
Yes.
Thomas, yeah. If you watch any of these shows, there are people that start intelligently, and all of a sudden they go, boo, and start, or asking personal questions.
Well, I'm above that. I wouldn't go.
Yeah,
that.
well, I mean, whether you are, I mean, everybody seems like they are, and all of a sudden something snaps and they just go. So I'm ready on the button here, but basically to get back to the subject of anarchy, I think it's something to strive for because at first people are going to recoil at that thought, just like you did, and say, what about the standards? Well, first of all, I would question each and every one and say, does there have to be a standard? Does there have to be a 55 speed limit, to pick an easy one? The second one, there are private organizations that set plenty of standards. There's Underwriters Laboratories, there are Society of Automotive Engineers, there are all kinds of, which I think changed its name, but there are engineering, the IEEE, that set standards much more effectively than the government in that they can change the standard more quickly if it needs to be. Look at how much of your tax dollars have gone into switching over to the metric system, which, by the way, is not a dead issue. That's still supposed to happen. It just got slowed down. So there's a whole commission that you're paying for, to switch us to the metrics. So if we're going to pick standards, to me, that's not a reason for government. I think you could bring three things up that are tough questions to answer as far as purpose for government: police force, court system, and national defense.
That's true.
And I think that would even be a good intermediate step to say, well, let's stop when we get there that government is only doing those things. And by police force, I'm not talking about the ATF and the FBI storming Waco or Ruby Ridge or my house, which may happen tonight after this speech, but I'm talking about a police force to apprehend wrongdoers. One of the fallacies I think of today is that government is supposed to prevent crime. Now, if you think about that, the only way to prevent crime is to disarm us, to restrict our rights, restrict our movements. You can have some guy in a trench coat come up to you and, have you got your papers? That kind of stuff.
Gestapo techniques.
Yeah, and there's part of this country that's not far from that. The people that are in favor of some of the things the ATF and the FBI have done, and I want to bring up the Marshal Service because I happen to have dated a girl whose ex-boyfriend was a marshal, and the stuff that this guy was even telling her that he was involved in, I don't think we want our country involved in stuff like that. And
well,
people...
I would say you're advancing a slippery slope fallacy by saying that that only bad things will come out of the government as a result of the things you've described. But I would respond initially to what you were saying about the no standards, that what you seem to be advancing an argument of humanism and of relativism, because
No, I won't agree to relativism because I think my standards are more absolute. My ethical standards are much more absolute than anybody I've seen in political power ever in my lifetime.
But do you understand, though, that if we advance towards this system that you're talking about, or non-system, towards the anarchy, inch our way towards that everybody's standards wouldn't be the same, and yours might be different from someone else, and you wouldn't have any uniform code.
Right, that's called freedom.
That is not necessarily freedom, because if you forsake truth and what are known as truth, and you just get into right there what you're saying, you're not getting the relativism, but I think you are by just saying that freedom is absolute and that there are no strings attached. And
I don't think I've said any of those things. I think you're reacting in a very expected way to my bold statement about anarchy, because remember, we are raised by government schools with government-influenced media. If you don't believe they're totally run, the media is totally run by the government. Actually, it might be the other way around, but the media is licensed by the government. They're certainly not going to want to anger the government enough to lose their license.
That's true.
And including this place, which is freer than many. I've lived in several cities that had public access TV, and this is still the most open one, although they've restricted to a certain extent. And next Thursday, I think it is, they're going to come up with a meeting to do some more restricting in a different way as far as when different shows can air.
I oppose censorship. I oppose the government overreaching its authorities. I mean, I think.
Well, but if you give them the power to define their own limits, which is really where we are right now. If any of you out there have read the book Animal Farm, or haven't read it, you should read it, because it's very similar. It's a little allegory of a farm where the animals end up taking over because the farmer leaves and doesn't come back. And it starts out very democratic and actually sort of communistic in the pure sense of communism, where everyone truly is equal and truly pitches in. And little by little it gets perverted, just as we often see with our Constitution. In my lifetime, the Constitution has changed quite a bit as far as just the basic Bill of Rights. First of all, didn't apply to you in tax matters. You were guilty till proven innocent. Your property could be seized. Now it's, if you're suspected, the key word is suspected, of drug trafficking, or your house, they use all these labels. It's a crack house. It's not somebody's home anymore. It's a crack house, so we can burn it down or bulldoze it or whatever.
But
we've lost a lot of freedoms already. I don't want to too much get into politics because it's a philosophy show, but to me the best politics are based on a philosophy, and that's what's missing in your arguments so far when you talk about things that have happened in especially Republican Party. They're not based on a philosophy other than more is better in their pockets.
no, that's not true.
Listen, you got to go. You don't have to do anything, but for me, reality is based on what people do much more than what they say. Because you can say anything. I can say the sky is green, but what I do, how I live, and what my acts are, and this even goes, they knew it in biblical times because in the Bible this way, but something like by their acts you shall know them. And if you look at the acts of people like George Bush and Ronald Reagan, for instance, or even Newt, the acts are different from the words. Let me do one thing here. I've really enjoyed your call. I don't want you to take this wrong, but I'm going to have to take another caller here, or they're going to get sweaty ears.
Yeah, I don't want to hog up the line.
So you can call back later if you want, or I'll be on again next week. This is kind of a test to see how this goes. So far, I've had a great time, so
All right,
I'll probably
well,
keep doing it.
Thanks for the conversation.
Thank you, Tom.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, line one, thanks for waiting. You are on the air with the Free Mind. What's your first name?
My name is Mike.
Mike. Let me turn the volume down a little bit here. I'm getting used to what to do here.
All right, Dan.
There we are. Okay,
Your
Mike.
name's Dan, correct?
Say?
Is your name Dan?
Yes, Dan. Thanks
All
for
right, well, I've
calling.
been watching your show, for like maybe the last 15 or 20 minutes, and it's pretty interesting. You've had a lot
Can you
of
hear
interest-
everybody okay? And you can hear me all right?
Oh, yeah, I'm watching you right now.
Good.
And the hat I'm liking it. It's
You
looking
like?
good.
I was wondering whether to put it on. It's a little bit of an affectation, but on TV, my hair is thin on top, and you get this glare, and we got to do some things for the tube.
Well, I understand completely. It looks good. I'm loving it.
Thank you.
But anyway, so like I said, I've been watching your show, and I've found out a lot of interesting people do call into your show. And I've got kind of a challenge for you. All right, this is relevant to some of the points that were
Okay, I love a challenge.
All right, kind of make your mouth into a circle, okay? Oh, come on, Dan.
I know where this is going. I know where this is going.
Why?
I know where it's going, my
Will
friend.
you do that for me, Dan?
No, I won't.
Come on.
No.
Do it. It's a
No.
challenge. It's for all those
I know
viewers
where you're
out
going.
there.
Sorry. Bye. Okay. Nice try. Okay, you're on the air with the Free Mind. What's your first name, please? Hello? Is somebody there? It's you. You got to listen through the TV.
Hello?
Yes, it's you.
Me?
It's you. I hear laughing. I'm getting scared already.
Oh, I've been waiting for a long time. I'm sorry. Yeah, we've been
Let's start with this question. What's your philosophy?
My philosophy?
Yeah,
I'm Republican.
it must be a fun one.
Yeah.
Your philosophy is you're a Republican, so you define your whole life by your politics? I think I heard him hang up. Okay, we're trying to get the pranksters, it's great to have fun and all, but we're trying to do a show where people can learn. So I'm going to go to line 3 here. Line 3, you're on the air with the Free Mind. What's your first name?
Jay.
Jake?
J-A-Y?
Jay. Hi, how are you?
Good.
How you liking the show? Is it all right?
Yeah, it's a pretty good show. I've been watching for the last couple nights. Everybody, all the different people that have been
You haven't been watching me for the last couple nights?
No, some of the other shows. With
Okay. What's your philosophy?
I'm kind of a live and let live.
Very good.
I was calling in response where you were talking. The guy called up. He said he was a Republican.
Yeah.
And you said you were a Libertarian. And the whole thing kind of got off on politics. And to me, the scariest thing in the United States, and the government's never going to change as long as people think, they're a member of a party.
Right on.
If you're going to vote, you should vote for people regardless of whether they're Democrats or Republicans or communists or libertarians or whatever. Get the right people in the right job and get out of this Republican Democrat dogma thing.
Well, the only problem that people have under the current system is if you don't go by a party, you have to go entirely by what the person is saying. At least a party will sort of define some things about who the person is trying to serve or deal with. In other words, very few Democrats, Republicans can tell me this, but my impression of, say, a Democrat is they tend to want to redistribute wealth toward those who aren't earning much and the people who seem to be disenfranchised. A Republican, we can even go further. If you imagine a graph where on one axis you've got the amount of freedom that someone has, and in the economic area, and in the other axis, the amount of freedom in the social area, such as who you associate with, what you drink, smoke, eat, and in this, the economic freedom of starting a business or competition, that kind of thing. You'll find that the Republicans tend to be more along the economic freedom, but very low on personal freedom. They want prayer in schools and no abortion. They want to tell you how to live your life. The Democrats tend to be more free on the social area, wanting all the races to live in harmony and this kind of thing, and maybe even legalize hemp and those kind of things. But, they're afraid of corporations. They don't want competition. They want the government to control things. So to that extent, whether or not they admit it, this is how I perceive someone who identifies with one of those parties. So that's the only thing about a party, is it helps you pigeonhole someone. And independent's a little hard. You have to know about their life to know what they stand for if you're going to vote for them.
Well, that's true, but anytime you start generalizing, even into parties, when you go to vote, if you take a little time, it takes at least 15, 20 minutes to read through the voter's pamphlet and get an idea of who you aren't voting for.
Right.
Then regardless of whether you register as a Republican or you register as a Democrat, if people will go ahead and vote for the people who they feel will do what they want done in Congress, then that's when things will start changing, and the whole idea of a two-party, a three-party, a five-party system, it'll start going down the tubes, and then the government will be run by the people again. Right.
I think, too, if we do away with career politicians, that would help, too, because right now,
that would help
I always
a
think
lot.
of that movie, Blazing Saddles, I believe it was, where the governor's number one priority was he didn't want to lose his phony baloney job. And I think of that line almost any time I watch C-SPAN.
Oh, yeah.
They're all harumphing a lot, and the main thing is they don't want to lose their phony baloney jobs. Well, let me move along here. We got some other callers. Thanks for calling.
Okay.
Hello, caller. You're on the line with the Free Mind. What's your first name?
First name is Jack. How are you doing?
Jack, fine. How are you? I'm Dan.
Dan, it's good
Have
to
you been
talk
watching
to
the
you.
show this evening?
Yeah, I've been watching it. When did you come on? At 8?
8 o'clock, right.
And
It's a one-hour show.
And how long are you going to be on?
It just, I'll be on till 9. Actually, a little before that, I've got a rollout to do a tape with my logo and the credits and all that stuff.
Well, it's great. The show, your show seems to be a little bit different than most of what we get.
Well, thank you. That's what I'm aiming for. We got a little bit more into politics, and I'm more interested in personal philosophy to go beyond the politics. And why do you believe what you believe? What I call turn on your bullshit filter when the TV comes on, or when you start reading the newspaper. I mean, it's amazing. I end up getting a sore neck today. I only get the Sunday paper, and I got a sore neck from shaking my head reading some of the stories in there. So, what's your philosophy?
I don't label it. I mean, I
No,
could,
but you
I
can
could
describe it.
characterize it in a number of ways.
Can you describe it?
Yeah, I do believe in standards. I think that standards are very meaningful things, and I think that we need. I think you had a caller a while ago, Thomas, that got into a discussion with you about standards.
Right.
And I think, even though he identified himself as a Republican, which is something I would never do, I think Thomas and I are more in agreement about the need for standards than you and I, at least on the surface, would be.
Well, I would at least question them. There might be a need for standards, but I think there's so many standards right now, and they're set by people in many cases who don't have to live under them and who don't understand what they're doing. EPA, for instance. Do you watch a show? There's a show called TV Nation. Do you ever watch that?
Yeah, Michael Moore is one of my popular heroes.
Well, I do, but he makes me nervous because he's such a leftist. But did you see him last Friday?
I saw most of the show. I forgot it was on, and I didn't turn it on until they were in the middle of the thing.
Did you see the Crackers part?
On, I think Guns for Canada was what.
Did you see the Crackers part?
Yeah.
Okay, with the lead, the thing, and in fact, I emailed him after the show. I've got an email going with his wife actually, but his after the show, I emailed him about that and said, "Where's the EPA? Why are you shaking your finger at the corporate guy?" Which you probably should, but you shouldn't stop there. The EPA allowed him to do all this lead poisoning in the atmosphere. So,
well, you know. I don't know. I think that's where you and I are gonna bump heads because you were talking a little while ago about the people making standards like insurance company standards or any of a number of industry standards, and you set that as against government standards or societal standards, which become embodied as government standards. And you seem to take the position that the standards set by industry are better standards than those set by the government. But now you're saying that they should have resorted to the EPA and their standards.
No, I'm not saying whether they should have, but if he's going to shake his finger and say bad boy, it shouldn't stop there. I'm saying we supposedly are supposed to look to the EPA to save us from these people, and most of the time the EPA...
I think what he did was he started something, and I think that he did go to the appropriate state agency there in Missouri.
But he didn't follow really that through. That was kind of an aside, but I'm glad he did that much.
Well, this was only 2 weeks ago that all of this happened, Dan. Give the guy a break.
You're right there.
The problem...
Well, no, it isn't 2 weeks ago that it happened. He may have done the show 2 weeks ago.
No, it was 2 weeks ago they were in St. Louis.
Right, but I'm saying that poisoning's been going on for a lot longer than that.
Well, I don't think you can hold Michael Moore accountable for that.
What I'm saying is,
if you want to hold the business accountable for it,
right?
That should have its own standards, and that we're supposed to trust their standards.
Correct.
Well,
let's go on a philosophical area. To me, one of the aspects of human nature is many people will do as much as they can get away with. Whether it's right or wrong, that's what this businessman is doing. I think the fallacy is looking to government then to save us from those people, because government really, in effect, protects them because there's a limit to liability and there's a taxpayer-funded super fund. If he doesn't want to pay or says he can't pay to clean it up, the taxpayer is going to clean it up. Those are things that protect those people and allow them to go ahead with what they're doing.
But that doesn't... number one, the mechanism that you're talking about does have a lot of flaws. There's no question. You and I would agree on that.
Okay.
But number two, if you're going to replace it with anything, you're going to have to replace it with enforcement standards and enforcement practices that are going to be more effective, or the only thing you're going to replace it with is saying that you're either going to take the law into your own hands, and if an industry across the street is poisoning your children,
those aren't the only alternatives.
Okay, well, give me a practical alternative to either having standards which are adequately enforced to maintain a safe environment for children to live in, or having or resorting to taking the law into your own hands.
No, I think there's a middle ground, which is what used to exist before the EPA stepped in. Before the EPA stepped in and there were limits to liability, those people could...
Now, the EPA
Wait a
didn't
minute.
create any... No, but the EPA did not create limits to liability.
Well, they didn't create it, but at the same time, they said, well, now we've got the EPA, and for instance, in a nuclear accident, the victims can only get $10,000 apiece. So the government came in and said, you can't sue, in the case I just brought up, a nuclear plant owner, Westinghouse, or the government, or whoever runs a particular plant. You can't sue them for what your damages are. You're limited. So the government has stepped in and limited what already existed, where you could have a class action suit in that little town of the people getting together, get Jerry Spence or somebody down there to represent them, and sue these people. And the ability to sue would scare the polluter in most cases. Anyway, we're getting into politics, which I didn't want to do.
Well, but I think what you're going to find, I know that in my case, I think that philosophy leads directly to politics.
Well, it should be a basis for politics, and that's why I want to go beyond the politics and say, what is the philosophy? And we've kind of touched on it, but let me move along here. We're getting close to the end of the show. I really appreciate your call. It's frustrating to have a limited time. But the good thing about this show, and one of my objectives was to meet, in effect, a lot of people like you, that we could talk.
I hope one of the good things in the future is that when a caller like myself calls up to talk about something, they get to do it at some point. I understand you've got time problems, but this business about standards and where they come from and how they affect people and how they're put into effect is a very, very important component of social philosophy, and that is politics.
Right.
And
You're right.
I mean, I understand you've got other people to talk to, but
Right.
I mean, you got somebody right now. We never talked about what I wanted to talk about. So thanks a lot, Dan. Maybe I'll see you again sometime.
Okay, I'm sorry you're frustrated. And there was one other thing I wanted to do here. I wanted to put something else up on the VTR here. VT2. Let me take that guy. Okay, we'll lose this. Okay, I wanted to point out one other thing about my philosophy, maybe to tickle some people's fancy a little. If you look up there, this is a painting, and unfortunately, I'd really like to credit the artist, and it's cut off of the poster. This is a poster I have in my living room, and it's the basis for a lot of what I do. I imagine myself the little duck in the middle, and if any of you watched my tape show, I've mentioned this before, but I'm the little duck in the middle, and I think to a very great extent in life, as one of the callers said, a lot of our troubles and negative impacts are either imagined or they are made worse by other people. But I think if you have the right mindset, I like to at least imagine myself to be able to have this nice little vacation in the middle of the beach there, like the duck is doing. Here, let me, my mic volume's too low all of a sudden. Okay, and despite the alligators, still have a good time. And that's what, if I can impart anything to you all today, I'd like you to think along those terms. If you look at the one alligator who's in the water, in fact, he looks real surprised, and I imagine it's because the duck isn't scared of him, and he's like, well, I'm not even getting out of the water if I can't scare somebody. And I kind of think that's how life is nowadays, especially on the political scene, that people are trying to always scare us, that if we don't keep them there to protect us, in effect the government does this a lot, or particular political parties do this, if they're not there to protect us, we're going to be all alone and naked. And I try to imagine that that's really not a problem, because I'm the duck and I don't need to worry. So I got that in, and I'm sorry, I think Jack, whatever the last caller's name was, I know you wanted to talk some more, and maybe you can call back next time. I'll be on next week at the same time, 8 o'clock. So we'll go back to me, and we'll put this back up. I have time for just a few callers. Let's take some quick ones here. Caller, you on there with the free mind? What's your first name?
Hey.
What's your first name?
Rich.
Rich, hi, I'm Dan.
Hey, man.
Got something kind of quick to discuss or to contribute?
Well, something pretty blunt. My philosophy is salvation in Jesus Christ.
Okay, and what is it that you base that on?
Basing on the Word of God. I don't understand the question.
Well, in other words, you're saying you're basing your life on the faith in Jesus Christ.
Right.
You never met him, right?
No, but
I'm not trying to make silly out of it, but I'm trying to say, from my point of view, if you base your life on something that isn't there, where do you get the details of, for instance, how to make decisions in life? A lot of people use the word right and wrong, let's say effective and ineffective decisions. How do you base that? Where do you go to get those answers?
Well, obviously, I mean, I was raised in the church from day one, so but I have always been a searcher. I've never been one to just believe, and I have had situations.
Well, you're believing in somebody you don't even know exists.
I do know Jesus.
Sorry?
I do know. I mean, I have a relationship with God. It's not someone that I don't know. It's someone that it's the unseen, but the scriptures teach you to have faith in the unseen.
Right. Well, let me make it clear that I don't believe that we have enough senses to detect everything that exists around us. So there may be a whole unseen spiritual world that we're not aware of, and I'll be the first to accept that, but I've not seen any proof of it. And when you get into religion, to me, that's totally based on faith, and
You're right.
That's fine, for some people. But it's to me, I mean, it is a philosophical base, and a lot of people, but a lot of people have done very bad things based on in the name of Jesus Christ. They've killed, they've murdered, they've performed genocide. So I don't see that in itself is enough to. Sorry?
You can't dog the entire Christian faith because of some historians that have just claimed Christ, but yet they've done bad things. I mean, it's not. I mean, it's like has no libertarian ever had a fault? Has no Republican, Democrat, etc.
Right, but any libertarian will tell you, and I don't purport to represent all of them, but just for this reason that libertarians believe very strictly in individual responsibility. So
does Christ.
Well, let's get to what you believe. It sounds like what you're saying is you believe in individual responsibility.
True.
Because if Christ existed, it was thousands of years ago, and it's a little tough to get him on the air here to speak for himself. So, and I don't believe you can speak for someone who isn't here. So
the only voice
I'm more interested in what you believe.
The only voice of Jesus is in the Word of God. I mean, that's how.
Well, you mean the Bible then?
I'm sorry?
You mean the Bible,
right?
Which was written in my book. It's written by humans. Since humans are fallible, I mean, everybody's been able to point out contradictions in the Bible anyway. To me, the important thing is, what do you believe? Whether you get it from the Bible or a bubblegum wrapper is meaningless to me. What do you believe? And more importantly, what do you do? How do you live?
I live upright, and I live with God as my lead in life. He guides me in everything that I do.
Okay.
My life is led in submissive prayer.
And what you've told me, unfortunately, doesn't tell me anything about whether you're even what we'd call a good person, whether you've helped anybody or helped yourself, or whether you pull wings off flies.
I have helped myself. I was a very violent person before I knew Jesus.
Okay. Well, that's very good. And I don't want to belittle it, but I have to move along. So maybe you'll call back next week, okay?
I mean, that's exactly what you've done. You haven't even given us a chance to even discuss it. It's just been.
Well, I'm sorry, and the last guy was insulted
exist.
too. But we get near the end of the show, and I've got to move along.
Well, I understand.
So thanks for calling. I really do appreciate it. Maybe you can call next week, okay?
Sounds good.
Call a little earlier, maybe, and we can talk longer.
All right, man.
See ya.
See ya.
Okay, I'll try to get. I got two more callers here. Nope, I got one more. We'll just get him in. Line 2. You're on the air with the Free Mind.
Hello.
Hi.
I know you don't have much time, but me and my friends just sitting around and talking about life and how beautiful it is. And
turn your TV down, okay?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Or move a little further away from it.
I'm pretty far away. Anyway, just talking about life and figuring it. I mean, like the solar system and how we're nothing. It's kind of depressing.
Well, to me, it's meaningless what the solar system is. All we know about it is what we see on TV anyway. And I mean, it could all be fake, like that movie Capricorn 1, and it would be meaningless except we spent billions of tax dollars to supposedly get out there.
Yeah.
There's even some people that are talking about the moonshots being fake. To me, it's irrelevant whether they are or not.
Mm-hmm.
All I know is they took my money to do whatever they did with it.
Yeah.
So anyway, I've got to get going here, I think. So thank you for calling, though. I really
don't cut me off.
Thank you.
Hey.
Okay, we got 2 other callers, but I'm sorry, I really don't have time to talk to you. I do appreciate everybody who called in. I guess an hour isn't long enough, but I got to do my rollout now. So thank you so much for calling, everybody who did and those who wanted to. And I hope the 2 gentlemen that were insulted will get over it, because unfortunately I've only got so much time. Let me start my tape here. And tune in again next week at 8 o'clock for the Free Mind, and we'll talk some more.